Would you believe that I started this channel in order to talk about positive things like doing video game reviews and recommending stuff? I finally get to have the opportunity. Terra Invicta is an XCOM-like 4X strategy game. You're going to play as a faction and research the aliens, develop new technologies, and try to further your goals. Now, factions, they're more like ideologies. What you do is you gain control of a couple of operatives and you try to subvert various nations on planet Earth, gain control over their mass media, their legislative branch, and eventually their government branch in order to use those nations' resources to accomplish the goal of your faction. So what are the faction's goals? Because this is a very interesting part of the game. You're not only going to fight the aliens, but you're going to fight off the other factions too. The main one, which you should play, is the Resistance, because it has a tutorial. The other factions do not. And this is how you learn the game. You will probably lose the first time you're playing, because the game is quite complex, but at the same time it's very easy to learn. The UI is very well made. And despite the fact that there's a lot of things going on, it doesn't really take that much to figure out how the game is supposed to work. It's easy to learn, but very difficult to master. Now, the first faction, which I highly recommend people to play because it's the only one which has access to a tutorial, is called the Resistance. The goal of the Resistance is to prevent the aliens from conquering Earth. It's the XCOM faction, if you will. And you can do this either by turning Earth into a fortress or by building spaceships, conquering Mars or other planets, and preventing the battle from even reaching Earth. Humanity First is like the Resistance, but they are the radicals. They believe that there is absolutely no reason to even engage with the aliens. And at the same time, they believe that any person that allies with the aliens is also an enemy. This is a much more difficult faction to play because besides the Resistance, chances are you're going to be at war with almost every other faction. The Initiative is a very interesting faction which tries to operate from the shadows, and it's interested in gaining power for itself. Throughout the game, you may try to weaken some nations in order for them to fall to the aliens. You're going to be using a lot of subterfuge. You don't really care whether or not the Earth gets invaded. What you do care is that your faction gets as much power as possible. So you're going to be focusing on a lot of research. You're going to be focusing on toppling world governments, creating anarchy, so that you can benefit from the fallout. You're going to try to push different factions to fight with each other, and you're going to make sure that they maximize their losses before you swoop in and claim victory. This is a very difficult faction to play, but also one that's very rewarding if you like playing smart and you like operating from the shadows in a game where you already play as a shadow government. The Servants are one of the easiest factions to play. The Servants are a bunch of religious fanatics which believe that the aliens bring salvation. So your victory condition is to allow the aliens to win. The Servants are also one of the main antagonists in the game if you play as any other faction. And at this point, I find them very difficult to deal with. One of their strategies, for example, is to take control over China, Russia, or the United States, and then start a World War III scenario where they're going to launch nukes at other nations, and in exchange, they will receive nukes from other nations. What this causes is that the entire world economy collapses. It's very difficult to do any research at that point, and they pretty much won the game. So if you play as anything besides the Servants, you should make absolutely sure that this faction does not gain control of any major superpowers, because then they really easily fuck your game up. Alternatively, if you play as the Servants, then your objective is to gain control over Russia or the United States and start World War III. The Protectorate is just like the Servants, but they're not as religious. They believe that humanity's goal is to appease the aliens but not worship them. The difference, I guess, is the same as the Resistance and Humanity First. So chances are that the Servants and the Protectorates in most games are going to be allies. But there are situations where the Servants are going to be angry that the Protectorate isn't servile enough. So you will have the extremists calling the other extremists not being extreme enough. All of these are causing interesting drama within the game. But from what I noticed, these factions usually get at war when they eradicate all the other factions. And again, it's the same with the Resistance and Humanity. Like, the Resistance might be upset that the Humanity tries to even contact or engage in diplomacy with the aliens to try and persuade them not to attack. The Academy is the research faction. They try to convince the aliens that the humans are on par with them. And to do that, they want to show that humans are capable of creating the similar technology as the aliens, and they want to persuade the aliens to not attack because it's not worth it. Like, the humans are able to defend themselves. It's best if the aliens just either leave or start cooperating with the humans in order to achieve mutual beneficial projects. The reason it's difficult is that the aliens, they already have incredibly powerful technology in the game. I mean, they are able to cross the galaxy after all, and humans start the game in modern time. In fact, the war with Russia and Ukraine is happening within the game right as we start. So to play the Academy, it means that you're going to have to invest a lot of science, a lot of technology, while at the same time, you're going to be at war with the Resistance, Humanity First, the Servants, and the Protectorate. Because all of them have reasons to hate you. The Servants and the Protectorate view that you're being arrogant, that you think humanity can be on par with the aliens, while Humanity First and the Humanity First and the Resistance hate you because, well, you're trying to deal with the aliens. So you're kind of stuck in the middle. You're being the centrist, and both extremes hate you. And finally, Project Exodus, which is one of the most interesting factions. They just try to create a ship and take humanity to Alpha Centauri. They're just trying to evacuate Earth. They're not going to try to fight. They're not interested in anything besides building a space project and building ships powerful enough to carry humanity to another planet. So, as you can see, it's a very interesting game. The factions, they're not governments, but they're more like ideologies. And your goal is to subvert various nations, gain public support for your goal, and eventually achieve the objective. Now, if people like this video and it gets enough views, I'll make another one where I show you how the actual game is played, and we're going to look at how the nations are like, what it takes to subvert a nation, how the nation state's current political climate with its neighbors affect the game. Because yes, I mean, you can subvert Russia, but you're still at war with Ukraine. So how do you convince the Russian people that it's in their best interest to stop the war? Or do you want to continue the war and annex other countries, but you're going to be at odds with Europe? And at the end of the day, it doesn't really affect you because, as I mentioned, you play as an ideology. Like, you don't really care if the nation states you have subverted get into certain political upheavals. It's a very complex system, and we're going to get into that into the next video. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.